first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select
Trophy Chase, Arizona.
with the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select
Cody Smith, Houston, Texas. The fantasy draft room is now on the clock.
Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Room. I am Chase, and with me, as always, my man Cody. What do we have in store today?
We've got another startup mock for y'all. This is one from the Fantasy Flock Dynasty community. Mason over there does incredible work, so we will throw a tag under here to that video. You know, obviously, it's a different community, though, so we have drastically different values, and that's what we're trying to target here today, is where these values between dynasty communities lie, because everybody kind of gets siloed into their own little world, or at least we're kind of siloed into our own little world. You see this mock and we're like, wow, how does that value just fall that far? How does that guy go up that high? This is what we want to bring to y'all and see where you can actually target certain values between different communities in startup mocks that we're probably going to be doing for the next, what do we got, 8 months until we actually hit NFL season again. It's too damn long, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And that's the right idea here. We have, you know, when you're in the same community, you have kind of a little bit of a group think where you all think similarly, at least about players for the most part. But when you are doing startups with random people or with friends from different communities or that look at different things, you're going to be able to find value. And we're going to start looking at how you can do that and where you can find that value. So let's kick things off here with the first few rounds. Obviously, the first few picks, pretty standard. You know, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Burrow. We have T-Law jumping up here, which is a little bit of a surprise. But I'll just round out the whole first round. Justin Jefferson, Justin Herbert, Jamar Chase, and then we have Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, so all the running quarterbacks, and then CeeDee Lamb to wrap up the first round. So what, we have 9 quarterbacks here. So how do you feel about this top 9? How do you feel about these wide receivers being taken in the first?
Obviously, we have a difference of opinion whenever it comes to the quarterbacks, right? At least the order that they're coming off in. If I can get Jalen Hurts at the 1-8, he's my 103. So, like, imagine my glee whenever I start off this draft at the 108, and then imagine, like, obviously there's no trades in this, nothing like that. So we're going to have a very consistent board all the way down of where people are actually picking. But imagine you're actually in a startup mock and you have the 108. Then you trade your 2nd, 3rd, and 7th for a top 5 pick. So you can start off with, I mean, I don't even think you have to do that. Imagine if you just get Justin Herbert. You move up to the 1-6, you get Justin Herbert and Hurts as your quarterbacks in Superflex. Man, that is, you are in a set position for a long time in that league if you can pull that shit off.
Yeah, the struggle that I have with the round, it's not only just the order of the quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not taking Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. I love them both. They have a special place in my heart, but I am not taking them above almost any of these quarterbacks. Just because of the landscape of where it's at right now. Jalen Hurts, like you said, 103. I would take T-Law over them, Herbert over them, Lamar over them. You might get me to think around the Fields range. But even then, like, I feel like with what he has done with his legs, and if he can improve as a passer, he's going to be locked and loaded. So I feel like those guys need to come off the board before the wide receivers. But again, this is where the difference in value is and the difference in mindset is. So if you are in the back half of the draft, you know, we've been trying to figure out the mystery of drafting
from the back.
Yeah, the 10, 11, 12.
111.
It's tough. It's tough. And it's like you either chase quarterback, but hey, if you have Lamar Jackson falling to you at the 10, I mean, we have quarterbacks that Dak Prescott went 212, Deshaun Watson 205 or 206. So you have quarterbacks going in the mid to late second where you can find value. So a lot of times it comes down to when you're in these drafts, like being fluid, being flexible, not coming in like, oh, I got to take a quarterback here. I got to take, I'm going to take, CeeDee Lamb at the turn no matter what. It's like, well, I guess Dak and Deshaun Watson fell to me there. Like maybe I start looking at those options. So being flexible is key when you are in any startup.
Yeah, I just as long as we're talking about the quarterbacks here, I can't stomach personally putting up rookies above Dak Prescott. Like,
Yeah.
he has consistently been I'll pull it up here, but I believe he's consistently been a top 12, top 15
Yes.
quarterback throughout all of his career in the NFL.
Yeah.
In
Injury
terms of
seasons, I think,
fantasy.
are the only ones that would exclude him.
So, like, why is he being devalued? I know that, like, we've heard reports of, oh, the Cowboys aren't committed to him, and then I see a report today saying that they're going to sign him to a contract extension today. Like, he's already signed through 2026, and Jerry Jones loves his guys so much that he's going to sign Dak Prescott to a contract extension, and they're not going to cut Zeke Elliott because they love their guys there. They're an old school franchise. I'm sorry, it's America's team, but they're not up and running with most of how teams operate and how fast paced reaction a lot of the NFL viewership wants them to be. They are going to stick with their guns, stick with their guys. Dak Prescott's going to continue to be what he was, and he's probably going to get an addition at wide receiver. I can't see a world where I have Dak Prescott outside of the top 15 picks in the startup.
Yeah, the Michael Gallup experiment as being the number 2 is over. They're going to bring somebody in to run alongside of CeeDee Lamb. I know they wish they had Amari Cooper, so seeing CeeDee Lamb come off the board here. But yeah, the quarterback values, however you want to push them up or down, I definitely agree with you. I would be taking Dak over those rookies. Tua just cleared concussion protocol. I think this mock was before that news, so a little bit of leeway there. And it sounds like he's going to be locked and loaded as their quarterback of the future. We'll see what happens with contract extension conversations this offseason, but I'm okay with the rest of those picks being where they are. It's just going to be, yeah, man, if you're the 101 and you get Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, and then you lead off your wide receiver core with Amon-Ra, wow, you feel incredible. Right? You're like, I'm not thinking I'm going to get any quarterback coming back around here, and here you are getting Dak and
gift.
Yeah,
Giving a gift.
So let's skip the other positions, or let's skip back to the second round here. We see a 5 running backs off the board here: Bijan, Kenneth Walker, CMC, Breece Hall, and JT in order 1 through 5 off the board. Do you feel any certain way about that order? And with them being taken, I mean, you have Jalen Waddle in between there, and then after that, you have guys like Amon-Ra, Tyreek, all of the other wide receivers after the fact. What do you feel about this value here?
The guys, whatever order you really want to place them in, it's running back, it's high variance. I'm not gonna argue whether you have a guy at the 1 or whether you have him at the 5. JT at the 5 is probably going to piss some people off. I legitimately don't care. Like, it's running back. Anytime you have that level of running back, you should probably be trading off that asset because you can find close to similar production. We're going to find close to similar production here in like the 8th, 9th round whenever we finally reveal the full board. And you can get first, seconds, and thirds on top of these guys just because they're young and the dynasty community likes them. Jonathan Taylor, like what's inspiring you to like Jonathan Taylor moving forward? He's probably going to come in next year with a rookie quarterback under a new head coach with a new system where he didn't perform well last year. The offensive line got beat up. It doesn't have any real look to get better. They're already cap stricken and they're already pick stricken because they've traded for quarterbacks that haven't worked out the past 3, 4, 5 years in a row. Like, what's getting better for him outside of the fact that he's just not going to probably get hurt with a high ankle sprain this year? And when you look at it that way, I'm like, what's really the difference between JT and Joe Mixon? Like, It's probably just a variance year to year, and I can get multiple assets on top of Joe Mixon if I trade down my Jonathan Taylor. Even Brees Hall, he's coming off an ACL. I know he looks good. We've seen him working out, already running on the treadmill. It's a running back. I can find similar production elsewhere. I don't care. CMC, he's a hammer, but he's old. The dynasty community won't value him. Walker, he's a 2-down running back who is in on 3rd down but doesn't catch passes. Bijan, who the hell knows what his actual draft capital is and where he's going to land. Like, all of these guys have their holes, and this is why we typically like to see our wide receivers and our quarterbacks up above these guys.
Yeah, I've as I look at the board here, I don't care which order, do whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. Bijan, I do feel right now in dynasty communities in terms of value and what people think he is going to be, I'm good with him being the one. Kenneth Walker, he's not going to put up the CMC numbers, and I think that's where I hesitate on him. I feel like he should be a little bit later in all of this, but in the end, I mean, you're looking at, after you have AJ Brown come off the board, so you're the top 4 wide receivers, you're looking at Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Amon-Ra, JSN, Garrett Wilson. It's like, yeah, if I want to take a running back, maybe I'll take a shot on one early if you want the hero RB method. And if that's the case, I'm definitely taking the younger guys. CMC, he's just going to be so hard to trade. I mean, we saw him get traded for, I think it was a singular first. It was like the 104, I believe. But it's a single first, and that's kind of what you're going to get for him. So if you can get more for Brees or more for JT or more for Kenneth Walker, that's kind of the range that I'd be looking at, taking the youth, just because it's going to be a much more tradable asset than the aging McCaffrey. And as you see, we have a full round later, Austin Eckler coming off the board and Saquon Barkley. Give me those guys. I know what CMC can do. And with that San Francisco offense, it's exciting. It's something that could vault him to RB1 overall, but health is still going to be a concern. He's 27 years old. Same thing with Eckler, and then Barkley's going to go on his second contract here, and he should get re-signed or tagged. I'm not taking running back in the second round. There's nothing you can do to convince me unless I'm at the 212 and Bijan falls to me. Like, that would be about the only thing I'd be like, you know what, I'll consider it. Like, if Bijan fell to me at the back half of that second round, I would be like, the value.
Depending on the league, and what I know about my league mates,
yes, I could too.
I could argue for Bijan. I actually don't think this is a bad value for Bijan in most leagues, because the haul that you're going to get for Bijan, well, what did I see? It was DK and Travis Etienne for the 101.
See ya.
One, juices, I'm out. Give me Bijan, or send Bijan away. Give me those 2 assets in everything but like a start 8-10 team, something like that. Yep. But you're going to get a haul for Bijan in most leagues. So I think I'm fine with taking Bijan middle of the early to mid second in most leagues. Obviously, if we're in one of our leagues where we're devaluing the running back and everything like that, yeah, I can see almost not taking a single running back in the first 2 rounds. But here I think I'm okay with it. I don't know if I'd have this many wide or running backs in the top 5, or these 5 running backs all in the second round. I'd probably have guys like we're seeing with Amon-Ra. There's guys that we like as vet loving crew here, the Diggs, the Adams, all of those guys that just continue to smash year over year. We don't really care about age with those guys. Those guys, I think, could sneak up into the second. But other than that, I don't have any problem with this. The one thing that is interesting to me, I don't know what tight end premium was specified here, but only 1 tight end through 3 rounds is a little bit interesting to me, if this is anything but a standard no tight end premium league.
Yeah, absolutely agree. If it's just a standard league, this makes sense. But if there's any 1.5 even, I'm a little bit surprised there's only one. And I'm surprised that the one is Kyle Pitts. I get the youth aspect. Again, you can talk it up however you want. Hopefully things turn out. Hopefully they get a quarterback. Hopefully they use him better. It wasn't pretty for him last year. So until things do improve for Kyle Pitts, I'm not in on him being the tight end one. The other thing I found interesting as looking at this again, different communities, different thoughts, and then with us in particular and how we dynasty. You mentioned like Diggs, and we see Tyreek here in the third. We see there's a couple guys that aren't on the board yet. The value of youth when it comes to Waddle, Higgins, JSN,
ASN.
uh, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, all of these guys are coming off the board here, and I know that there's the hope for some of these guys, but we'll leave Waddle out of it for now, I guess, because he did have a 1,200-yard season, 1,300-yard season, I believe is what it was. Like he still went off this year. T. Higgins has been a perennial wide receiver too. JSN, massive question marks. Garrett Wilson, question marks around the quarterback. I mean, if he gets Aaron Rodgers, maybe things will change. Chris Olave, he had a very exciting start of the season, but in the end, he ended up as a wide receiver too, which is what he profiled as coming out. He was a wide receiver too, not really an alpha. I'm just a little bit surprised to see that we're valuing the youth where we are when people typically dynasty, even in 3-year windows, like Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Like, I don't know how you can dismiss how incredible they're going to be over the next few years.
I think people dynasty in 2 to 3 years when they're actually tinkering with their dynasty roster. There's a lot of people that in a startup draft will be, I'm going to play for a 7-year run. Will that actually come to fruition? And it's also, will that come to fruition? Probably not. And it being a mock is going to probably sway values. If I tell you we're running a $100 buy-in, dynasty league right now, and you're going to bank your first 3 picks on Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, and Jackson Smith and Jigba before 2 of those assets are even drafted in the NFL. You don't know their draft capital. Like, that is a thing that if you were doing your startups right now and you were drafting rookies, you are taking massive risk on by taking anybody who hasn't had NFL production, because you don't know. Like, you could be taking Malik Willis, and then he falls to the 3rd round, plays 2 games, and he might not never see the field again. And you just blown what's potentially like a 3rd round pick on that guy. There's reports coming out about JSN that he, for NFL teams, comps more as like a wide receiver 3.
Wild.
And if that's the case, like, does he fall to the back end of the 2nd round, early 3rd round? Then you're putting a 3rd round draft capital pick into him and a startup into that asset. Like, that's just not, it's not where I would go. And I don't think it's a wise decision at this point in the process if you are actually putting money into a true dynasty startup mock.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. Like, you can definitely tell it is testing strategies. There's definitely some testing things out here and valuing the youth. I am going to pull up the next couple rounds here while we kind of finish up the 3rd, just to kind of see where some of these guys do fall. So you mentioned, JSN, Garrett Wilson. We wrap that up. Then we do see Cooper Kupp come off the board, Drake London, DK, Josh Jacobs, Devonta Smith down here in the 4th round. Even a young player like him who had a top 10 wide receiver season has fallen into the 4th. We have Jahmyr Gibbs, Javonte Williams, tight end 2, Mark Andrews, Will Levis, DeAndre Swift, Travis Kelce, and then Devontae Adams to kind of wrap out that round. So we do see more of the aging vets, more of those top players right now. But looks like, pretty standard stuff here. Javonte is another one that people are kind of questioning that he might be on that J.K. Dobbins path when it comes to recovering from the ACL. So we have 2 ACLs on the same team now. We see Breece Hall and Javonte Williams here to kind of tie things together. So again, it is a strategy. Taking youth, taking productive struggle route is what most likely that individual is rolling with as he drafts.
Yeah, and it's obviously, we've got our mindset here. We're typically going for gold in year 1. I'm looking at Team 12 over here, and that looks fucking fantastic to me. Like, I'm already eyeing that team, thinking like, oh my goodness, that wide receiver room is going to absolutely smash for 2 years. But we're going to have. There's a lot of dynasty minds who are going to be, okay, well, give me Give me the Drake London, give me the Chris Olave, give me the JSN. Even though we haven't seen it translate to the field, we're more going on what it could become. Obviously, it's not how we typically run, but I do see the value in it. The one that really sticks out to me though here is Will Levis. Will Levis above some of these other quarterbacks. I would trade the rights to Will Levis right now for a lot of quarterbacks that are still on the board. This just feels very, very high to me. You still got Anthony Richardson that we don't see here go off between the first 6 rounds. So, you've still got another quarterback that actually has a rushing profile. Obviously, the arm and accuracy and mechanics are well over the map and needs to be developed. But if I'm not seeing Anthony Richardson here in the first 6 rounds, I can't justify putting Will Levis into the top 4.
Yeah, he's the 106 off the board essentially, so it's kind of about right for Will Levis in terms of off the board value for a 23 pick, but he is in the 4th round here, and so you're looking at, I mean, if Will Levis is a top 10, top 15 pick, I'm probably taking him over Cousins, Pickett, Russ. Daniel Jones, probably not. Daniel Jones is criminally undervalued, in my opinion, in this one. If I'm able to get Daniel Jones in the 6th round after Russ, after Pickett, sign me up, baby. Like the rushing potential along with what he can do. I'm pretty sure I'm okay with that. I don't really mind it. Richardson does have question marks in regards to not only his draft capital, but the passing profile as well. But he very well could be a Justin Fields. He very well could be a running back at the quarterback position and just put up 1,000 yards on the ground. So upside's definitely there.
I forget exactly what pick my last pick is in our main league, our Royal Rumble League, in the first round. But shout out to all of the people who play with us there. There's 27 other teams. You are one of them. So 26 other teams who might be watching out there. If you want to give me any of those guys who pop up in the 6th round for that first round pick, go on and send it over. That will be auto fucking accepted. I almost want to say that I would do it for the 107 that I own, which could easily be Will Levis. You're going to give me the known production that I know between Cousins, Jones, Pickett. I'd probably take the reroll, and then Russ, just because of his community value, I won't. But you want to give me that for Cousins or Daniel Jones? That fucking sign me up. I'm taking known production over that fuck stick of unknown with Will Levis every single fucking time. So
This guy.
y'all send that deal over to me. I will take it on air right now.
Let me just say that you, first of all, don't insult Russell Wilson like that. He's going to be the 2023
community value. Community value. That's the only reason.
He's going to win leagues for people this year. So if you can buy Russell Wilson, go buy him. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I think when you really look at it that way, I can, at this moment in time, no problem with passing on him. We have the mishmash of players kind of getting taken off the board. We do have a big wide receiver run here in the 5th round of DJ Moore, Christian Watson, Michael Pittman, Debo, George Pickens, J-Mo, Chris Godwin, and Treylon Burks. Kind of a, young, old kind of thing going on here. I feel like this is a real value. This is like the last opportunity you're going to get some of these guys in this range. I feel like this is like the cliff right here. And if you're telling me I'm going to take DJ Moore in the 5th round, Pittman, even Debo, I mean, I was selling Debo all off season prior to this year because I felt like that was the best it was going to get. That was his high. But man, he's electric, and all it's going to take is a couple games from him to really smash and people to be bought back in on him, and I'd be happy to sell him again. But yeah, man, I feel like you're getting some good production here in the 5th round. Pickens, the fraudulent one.
I looked through that one and I saw Pickens there, and that was the one that stood out to me. You want Pickens over Treylon Burks, who was everybody's locked and loaded 101 at one point last year before the NFL draft happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the talent of Treylon Burks, even though he's in that offense. Like, do you really want to, like, if anybody wants to sit here and tell me that they have more hope for the Matt Canada again led Pittsburgh Steelers offense than they do the Tennessee Titans, you can go make that argument to me, but I don't have any hope that that's going to be better. Treylon Burks, at least at this point to this date, is the one in that offense. And if he can actually stay healthy this year instead of, the injury-plagued year that he had last year, I'm going to take Burks over Pickens every single day of the week. I mean, J-Mo, we saw nothing from J-Mo. He's got a in this draft, top 6 wide receiver ahead of him in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he's got Jared Goff, who put up insane numbers, but he's also got a lot of other weapons in that offense that he can throw to. I mean, I guess he can be DJ Chark. Okay. Not too impressed with that. I would take Christian Watson at the front of these guys. Man, like, I just don't know. I'd almost take Ayuk and Debo over the majority of these guys. I've got hope in my heart for DJ Moore that he finally lands a competent quarterback whenever Lamar Jackson goes there by trade off the franchise tag. We're gonna keep pumping up that one. Stop it. I want to live this dream. But I mean, even some of these guys, would you rather take the rookies from last year, or would you rather take the re-roll with Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison here in the 6th?
Addison, yes. Addison I'm interested in, but like, yeah, I want Addison over Pickens. I want Kirk over Pickens. I want Ayuk over Pickens. Yeah, pretty much any of these guys except for QJ. QJ just I have some massive questions about. But I mean, the difference between Jordan Addison and JSN should not be 4 rounds. It's a little too much for me. I think they're a lot closer than that. I do like JSN, but regardless of what we're hearing, I just don't feel like there's that big of a separation. And then same thing, Chris Godwin. But yeah, I mean, Treylon Burks, I still have hope for, and he's the number 1 in that offense. J-Mo, question mark. I feel like he's a guy I'm okay missing on, and I would be okay. I would want Godwin over J-Mo. I'd want Treylon. I'd want Ayuk, maybe Kirk even. So it's a really tough spot here, and I feel like as I look at the board now and kind of looking at roster construction of some of these teams, if you miss on wide receiver, you're hurting. Like, you look at the 2 slot and you're like, oh yeah, you got Patrick Mahomes, Bryce Young, Etienne, Kelsey. You got a stack there, and then you got Ramondre and Ayuk's your wide receiver 1. Like, okay, all right. I mean, Michael Pittman and QJ. I just don't know if that's how I want to build my team when you're trying to take gambles on some of these guys. I feel like this is the area where you need to take, I don't even want to call them proven talent, but something that you know what you're getting. I don't know what I'm getting with Pickens, J-Mo, even Treylon to an extent. Like, I like him, but I'm not taking, I would much rather take the sure thing to make sure I'm getting production so I don't swing and miss. Because if you miss on these rounds, I mean, you can really put your team in a hole.
Yeah, you can. Honestly, as much as I can get hot and bothered about the order in which these wide receivers are going off the board, all of these wide receivers here in the 5th to 6th round, kind of like the same guy. This is the area that I actually love holding these assets in, because I can trade within this round and people will value guys way higher than they should in this area. And I can trade within here and just pick up free seconds. Like, I could trade any one of these wide receivers for the other one and pick up a second, and I would do that every single time. Without question, I don't even care what the second rounder is. You give me, I can send away DJ Moore for Terry McLaurin in a second, done. Like, it is putting a free spot on my roster for a guy who's probably going to be, over the next 2 to 3 years, about the same guy. So at that point, this is the area where you capitalize on value in the wide receiver game. You can have your guys that you like. I've got my guys that I like. But at the end of the day, if those offers hit your inbox, if you can send out those offers and get them done, this is what you do.
And this is also where you find out that you use the psychology of your league against them. Find out which, you'll hear people talking about, all season. it's like, oh man, I love myself some George Pickens. Gotta have him. Gotta have him. People will trade up for that. Absolutely trade up for that. Have no problem doing that. If you're telling me I can get any of these guys in this range, you're absolutely right. Um, yeah, looking to capitalize on value. The other big thing here I notice as well in terms of value, like you mentioned, you see Will Levis come off the board, but truly after the second round, even the third round, like after Trey Lance and Tua in the third, you have Will Levis and then a large gap until we hit that Russ, Pickett, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins range. And as much as we sit here and say like quarterbacks are so important, and they absolutely are, especially in lineup leagues, man, I mean, if I'm able to get Daniel Jones as my QB2 to pair with Jalen Hurts, if I'm able to get Kirk Cousins, I mean, I know this is his QB1, but getting Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson as my QB2 in the 6th round, it feels good. And there's some quarterbacks here that haven't even come off the board that I'd prefer probably, taking over a Levis or a Trey Lance at this moment in time too. So I am going to pull the board up just so we can kind of see the full shebang here. And looking at some of the values here. So we finally see A-Rich and Goff, Derek Carr. These guys are starters. And you're going to be comfortable having them as your QB2. So I love some of the values that you can get at the quarterback position here later on, even if we aren't super excited about the quarterback position right now.
Yeah, there's 9 quarterbacks that matter. Your first round, and here, Dak Prescott, I'd throw him up into that range. Deshaun Watson, I'd throw him up into that range. Those quarterbacks matter. After that, this is why we see the gap after, the Lance and Tua and Will Levis being up here. This is why we see the gap, because teams look at all these quarterbacks and they're just like, what's the difference? What's the difference between Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr? It's not much. And so there's no incentive to draft them. I think it is a reason why you can actually build a team like the 5th team here did, where he's got Jefferson, Taylor, Wilson, Andrews, Watson, and then you just backfill it with the quarterbacks after the 5th round, where you just get Kirk and Geno. I think that's actually a very fine strategy. It's not the way I would prefer to do it, but it's still, I think it still definitely works because of the immense amount of top end talent that you can get at the position wide receiver, or at the positional places like wide receiver and running back, where you can't get that if you are actually just sitting up here taking your quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds.
And you mentioned the 12 slot earlier, and the fact that you have CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. So you have 4 solid wide receivers, Dameon Pierce to anchor your running backs. I just wish Russell Wilson and just take Jared Goff. I get the excitement on Ridley, but just take your 2 QBs. Stafford there, later on, fine. We'll see what happens with him.
Cup
but I would the Cup stack. But even that, like, give me Russ, give me Goff. Like, let me have a few shots at that. But other than that, I absolutely love what he did in that 12 slot. It's tough to build in the later half of the draft, and I feel like he did a pretty good job for punting QB.
That's how I want to do it, though. If I'm doing it, I'm going for gold season 1, and I'm trying to outlast you with wide receivers and take some dog water at quarterback. I know that, Russell Wilson isn't dog water. He's more of like a Subway sandwich or something like that. He's a little bit dangerous, but him and Matthew Stafford, anchoring your quarterback room isn't good for the long term, but it can get you done for 1 season. And if you win the ship, hey, it's all worth it. It's all gravy, baby, like we like to say. So go out, win that ship with your stud wide receivers and your questionable quarterback room.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, just looking at some of the roster construction, and as you see here, we look at Pacheco, Charbonnet, Dalvin. We have Aaron Jones going later, Kendre. There's tons of running back value, and typically these guys are going to be putting up similar points. I know Josh Jacobs had a monster year. All of these guys are going to be relatively close. You're going to have your top tier guys in the end that are going to be putting up 20 plus points per game, but being able to get, where the heck did Derrick Henry even go off? I'm just trying to find him here.
Middle of the 7th.
I was like, please tell me he got drafted. So I mean,
We're good.
you're getting Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara there in the 7th round. Whew. All of those guys are going to be putting up RB1 numbers, and you're going to be pretty happy with that. And I feel like that's the whole thing is the guys in that range in comparison to the wide receivers in this range, there's just a lot more running back depth for points than there is at the wide receiver position. I mean, if you're telling me Jahan Dotson or some of these running backs like Dalvin Cook, like give me Charbonnet over Jahan Dotson. I like Dotson, but come on, Bateman later on there. We have D Hop coming off the board. It's far and few between. It's a lot bigger of a gamble at the wide receiver position on trying to find points for your roster than it is at running back. And I think that's like the big takeaway for me is you miss out on wide receiver early, you're going to be chasing and you're going to have a tough time finding that production in comparison.
I love the running back production that you see down the board here. It's why we're going to preach all off season that you take your wide receivers early and you backfill with running backs whatever you can get them. I mean, whenever you got guys like Miles Sanders, Aaron Jones, James Conner, David Montgomery all coming off here in the last 3 rounds and rounds 8 through 10. I mean, you're going to find running back value and you're going to find running back points whenever and however you want to get them. The issue for me, I know I brought it up with the quarterback position, specifically talking about, Levis, Bryce Young, and CJ Stroud. Some of these running backs as well, man. Like, if you are in an actual startup right now, I don't care about my love for Zach Charbonnet. I almost can't draft him because of the range of outcomes that could still happen from now until draft season. Like as much as I love him, I think he could easily be a 2nd round pick, Zach Charbonnet. But picking him here at the 8-9, there's a realistic possibility where he goes in the 5th round, and I've just drafted Isaiah Spiller and just taken an 809 pick and just lit it on fire. Like I can't take these rookies right now. I will take NFL proven vet talent over these rookies all the way up until we see draft capital, because there's just too much that can change until we actually see that.
So this is where I differ with you. And this is where I feel like if you have guys that you're confident in or that you feel are going to get the draft capital, Charbonnet, Kendre are 2 in particular that we talk about that are outside of that top group. I mean, we even see Devon Achane in the 10th or 11th round there?
11th round, 11-1. Yeah.
Wow. Like those are the top 5 running backs, and they're all considered to be, 2nd round picks or better. And so if you can take a shot on him, I mean, think about it. Dameon Pierce, 4th round pick. He's now valued there in the 5th round, but he was a 4th round pick. You're going to have guys like Javonte, who was a 2nd round pick. Like if they do pan out, you put yourself into an upper echelon, running back, a top 12 running back right off the rip. And you got that value in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round. So I do feel like there are guys I am not taking that gamble on. Tank Bigsby, Zach Evans, but there are a few guys like Kendre and Charbonnet and Achane are 3 that I feel pretty confident in and that I'm happy to take in this range. I would struggle, like if I was on the clock and I'm looking at Dalvin Cook or Zach Charbonnet, might struggle, but I'd take Charbonnet over Pacheco, White over Tucker, Aaron Jones. I probably would have taken over Charbonnet right now. So you're right. I probably would have taken like those RB1s, like that have put up RB1 numbers over him. But still, I think the upside is taking a guy like that in this range.
If you're giving me the rights to that pick, fully on board. But you put the name to it and you lock me into that player, I can't do it, man. Like you're looking at it right now. Like we're seeing Javonte Williams up here in the 4th round.
Yep.
Go try to trade Javonte Williams for a 1st round pick right now. You're maybe getting like the 107 probably. And I could have the rights to almost any other running back that's going to come out this class. whatever guy that ends up being, whatever guy does get that second round draft capital. I mean, hell, it could be fucking Roshan Johnson for all we know that is in the first round by the end of this process. And then you have a guy like TDP rise up for no reason. Now, does he turn out to anything? No, but like those guys happen. Isaiah Spiller falls to the fourth, Isaiah like fourth or fifth, wherever those guys go. So like whatever you put a name to it, I'm a confident guy. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to strut my stuff, but I'm not confident enough to take these rookies before you tell me where they're going.
Hey, we that's the best thing about this is we do Dynasty in a similar way, but we also have our differences. And I feel like for me, I am willing to gamble on that upside if it's someone I do believe in. Especially in this range. I would I guess in comparison, you pointed out Javonte. I would much rather take Charbonnet in the 8th than I would Javonte in the 4th. And I guess that's kind of the whole thing. If you can trade Javonte for the 107, which might end up being Charbonnet anyways, like that's the whole idea for me is I feel like that value is going to be there. Swift, same situation. He's in his 4th year. People have such concerns about him. His value's going down. I feel like those rookies just have that opportunity to go up. But you're right. It is not without risk at this point in the time. Like not without risk at all. Like there's definitely the possibility that Isaiah Spillers.
Yep. And you'd rather take Charbonnet in the 8th over Javonte Williams in the 4th. I'd rather just take David Montgomery in the 11th. I hate David Montgomery with a passion, but I'd rather just take him because I know what he is.
So we've kind of beat the running back drum here. Let's look at tight end real quick here, and then we can wrap up with anything else we want to kind of touch on. We do see Pitts, Andrews, Kelsey. Those are the top 3. Mix and match the order. Then we have Hawkinson, which seems like he has solidified himself as the 4. Goddard at 5. Michael Mayer, tight end 6. Kittle 7. Freiermuth 8, Schultz 9, Waller 10, and then at 11 we have a big gap there with David Njoku. Again, tight end premium. I'm not going to look at where these guys were taken necessarily. It's just going to be the value.
Order.
I mean, yeah, the order and kind of the value. I mean, I guess that's the whole thing is you can take
without knowing the premium.
It's hard.
It's hard to really break it down from. Where are you taking these guys? Are you taking them over, Michael Mayer over Derrick Henry? I think Michael Mayer at the 6 is a little bit aggressive, a little bit high. We've gotten burned on these rookie tight ends that we've been hyping up for way too long. I love Michael Mayer. I think in the right format, he could still be a first-round draft pick in your rookie drafts. I can't put him at the 6, though. I think he's still probably tight end 10, tight end 12 as he comes in if he lands in the right spot. I know you're going to hate this one. You say how we're similar, and I think we're way too similar most of the time on our dynasty process, but I love seeing George Kittle down here all the way at tight end 7. Especially, I have to eat it as much as I love to rock out with my Brock out. He's probably not going to be rocking out on the field for 2023. And if Trey Lance is on the field, George Kittle's value tanks. He's going to be inline blocking and not a outside wide receiver as much as he was for rocking the Brock Purdy. Outside of that, I still think people are too low on Schultz. It's probably my last one. And then Njoku, if you're just going by pure value, Njoku's the best value pick at the tight end position of this draft.
Yeah, I feel like if I miss on the top 3, I don't care. Like, give me any of these guys. And so I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to let Hawkinson go off and Goddard go off the board because people do value the youth. I mean, Goddard is 28. Like, he's the same. He's like a year younger than Kittle. Like, people. So I'm happy to wait a few more rounds, let some of these guys come off the board and be like, all right, now I'm willing to take Schultz, Waller, Kittle, Freiermuth, and Njoku. In the end, all the same, dude. It's the tight end position, unless you're in that two tight end premium or start 2 tight ends. So that does change things, but that's pretty much it. I don't have any issues with any of the order other than, like you said, Mayer. I don't think he should be that high.
Yep, don't think he should be that high. Anything else we're looking at here at the bottom of this draft? We got some of the wide receivers coming off: Cooper, Williams, Gabe Davis, Darius Toney. Both of those are a little bit too high for my liking. I probably take some of the more proven NFL vets over them. At the running back position, nothing standing out too much except for, like you said, I mean, even as much as I just went on my rant about how I wouldn't take rookies, Devon A-Chain here in the 11th, I think I'd actually pull the trigger and finally fire on that one.
Yep.
What do you think about these ending quarterbacks, though? These Jordan Love, Sam Howell, Aaron Rodgers, Hendon Hooker. There's a lot of risk, a lot of upside. I mean, I said that I'm not a risk taker, but if I do want to put risk anywhere, it's probably at the quarterback position this late in startup drafts.
The thing that stands out to me is the absolute disdain for Mac Jones. I know it wasn't a great year, but he's still a sophomore and they have no wide receivers. Like there was not really much going on. They are bringing in Bill O'Brien. So things can only improve, right? Like there's no longer a defensive coordinator running the offense. So like things gotta be better. So I'm a little bit surprised to see him down here. That's a guy I would definitely be taking a shot on later in drafts. I know this is, pre-Brock Purdy injury. So that one kind of, rip. But yeah, he's a value. Aaron Rodgers, yes, I'm taking the gamble on him. Sam Howell's been named the starter for the year. It might just be a year thing. That's the only issue that I have. But Aaron Rodgers would be the one that I am interested in just because it sounds like he's playing football. It sounds like it's not going to be with the Packers. Sounds like they've had some discussions internally and like they are exploring trades. So that would be one that does interest me. I have a feeling a team that trades for Aaron Rodgers would be looking for a commitment of sorts. That doesn't mean a whole lot to Aaron Rodgers, but that would be one I'm willing to take on. And then Matt Stafford, he's still 34. Hopefully he can be healthy, taking some time off, getting his surgery, getting healthy. Hopefully he's better. It's just I hate that Rams team right now. It is just an absolute shit show there in LA.
Yeah, if the Rams organization was a dynasty fantasy football team, that would be a fucking orphan this year because there's no way. I mean, you went for gold, you won the ship, and you just said, all right, see ya. Like I seriously thought that's what Sean McVay was going to do. I thought that's what Stafford and Donald were going to do. Is just, hey, we got the ship. We tried running it back for a year, didn't work out. Deuces. Fortunately for owners of Stafford, he didn't, and Sean McVay is back as well. We'll see how long it goes for because it's going to be a long rebuilding process there in Los Angeles for the Rams. So we'll see what happens there. Jordan Love. Man, I'm kind of with you on the fact now that it looks like they are preparing to be without Aaron Rodgers. So it's probably Jordan Love's probably a value pick. He's, regardless of what you think of him as a quarterback, I don't think anybody should have a solidified opinion of what he is as a quarterback because he hasn't put enough on the field to actually show us that. But the intrigue and the upside of what it could be should be worthwhile at the quarterback position. So I don't actually hate this pick, especially being your third quarterback. Now, do you have a little bit of instability with Bryce Young being a rookie coming in potentially? But that one, Sam Howell, though, is the one for me, though. Like, I understand that they've said he's the quarterback moving forward. I think he's the quarterback moving forward because it's not Carson Wentz and they aren't able to trade or acquire anybody in free agency yet.
They are tanking. They just spent a draft pick on Sam Howell, right? And they want to see what they got in a way. So they're going to name him the starter, right? That is the idea. If Sam Howell goes out there and plays well, great. Maybe they have their guy. If he doesn't, they suck. And they can go after Caleb or Drake May. That is how I interpret it. They're like, the Heineke show is over. Carson Wentz, it's over. We're going to let this young guy run with it and make or break his own career. That's how I view it.
I still think they bring in somebody. Like if Tannehill gets cut, I think he could easily be the starter for them. I think with the bringing back of what's his face head coach
Rivera.
Rivera, yeah, brought back Rivera. I think they still, in their hearts, for some reason, believe they can compete. We might have different ownership as well. That might trigger a rebuild if we do actually see a switch of ownership. Hopefully for, all of us as fans and, not despicable human beings that happens. But, we'll see. That's a situation that I see just fully up in the air, though. And it's probably why we're a little bit more out on all of the weapons and legitimately every single fantasy piece for that team right now.
Yeah, I mean, and when you really look at that round, like you said, I'm willing to gamble on quarterback. You're talking about Elijah Moore, Tyler Lockett, Brian Robinson, DPJ, Wandale, all guys that I'm okay if, like, whatever. Like, I'll take Aaron Rodgers. Hendon Hooker, no. No, just no. No. Anyways, that pretty much wraps up the quarterback talk there. Yeah, I would definitely take the gamble on Mac, Love, and Rodgers and kind of see what happens in that range. But any last things you want to touch on? The one thing I keep asking this, and I know you and I have kind of had this conversation, like DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams. Like DeAndre Hopkins is going in the 9th round here, and we have Devontae Adams in the 4th. They're the same age. They put up similar points per game. Why are they 5 rounds apart?
One played the entirety of last season and one didn't. And one has had a suspension, which has soured the dynasty mindset of one player, and one has not. The interesting thing to me is one has an unknown quarterback probably coming in, because I don't think Adams is able to get out of Las Vegas, even if he asks for a trade. I don't think he's able to get out because of he just signed a 3-year deal. He's not cuttable. It's going to take a lot to trade him, and like we said, even for the NFL, a wide receiver at 30 years old, what are you going to give up to trade him?
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have a team that is looking probably to fully hit the reset button and try to build it under Kyler Murray. And you've got a guy that's already requested his trade and publicly, so they're going to be taking a discount on DeAndre Hopkins. And his betting odds favorite of landing spot is KC. I don't understand. Like, legitimately, if you offered me that swap 1-for-1, I might actually just take DeAndre Hopkins above Devontae Adams.
I mean, but then that's a situation where if you have Devontae Adams and you can get DeAndre Hopkins, like, I know it's obviously aging receiver for aging receiver. It's probably a tough 1-for-1 type situation, but like you should be able to get a plus theoretically on top of D-Hop. But that's the thing, is D-Hop is acquirable, I guess, is the thought process here. He's going to be a cheaper asset than what your league mates are going to have their values on Devontae Adams. And if you're able to go get DeAndre Hopkins, he could be a huge asset to you. And if he goes to Kansas City, if you think that DeAndre Hopkins is not going to ask and demand his targets, like, he's going to be like,
no trade clause.
Give me the ball. Give me the ball. Yeah, he gets to choose where he goes. He's not going to back to Houston. He's not going to go to New Orleans. Like, he's going to get to pick his destination. He's going to play with a quarterback that he wants to play with. Hey, man, buy me some DeAndre Hopkins at this price.
Yep. You sending any second on a contending team?
Yes.
Get out of here on this one.
Yes.
Any second on a contending team.
Any second. Yeah. I have zero problem with that for a contender.
I think I'm right there with you, man. He should ball out. I mean, there's always the worst case scenario where he turns into Michael Thomas or Julio Jones. But I don't think he's there yet. I think if he gets to pick his spot, pick his quarterback, pick his situation, he's going to go out there hoping to win a ship, and I think he's going to put it all on the field to do that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here. Please like, subscribe, comment, give us your feedback on what you think of this draft. It is a different community, so we definitely have some different opinions and some different values on this. But thank you again for joining us here in the Fantasy Draft Room.